Hey, what is up everyone, and welcome back to another episode. So today is going to be discussion data structure part 1. So the teacher wanted us to discuss each of the data structure that we have considered including vectors. Okay, so we're talking about vectors, lists, queues, and stacks, and show the compare and contrast between each of them. All right, let's go ahead and do this. So as many of you already know me, I love vectors. I love everything about vectors. Vectors are awesome. They're cool, and I just love everything about vectors. I like vectors because I like the word pushback. For some reason, that's like something that I really adore. For some reason, I don't know why. It's just one of those things I just really like. Maybe the name is kind of weird. Um, I don't know why, but I just love the word pushback. All right, so what's taking so long? Probably computers crash due to memory. No. Let's do this. Control C, just copy it, and let's do a refresh, reload, run. Okay, so first thing that we're going to do, so we have to call for the vector, which is include vector here, which you already see. And what a vector is kind of like an array, right? You can have like 4 arrays, 5 arrays, or number arrays, and then you can assign a string into each array number from 1 through 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So whatever you put. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to do going to ask the user to input how many friends do they have. Once they input the numbers of friends they have, you're going to go over to this function. And we're going to call that function, which is, well, don't forget we have a class called friends class, and my function is right here. So once we ask you how many friends you have, then we will ask you to input the amount of friends you have. It's going to have you enter your friend's name, and it's going to push back and keep on doing that until the number input is no longer there. Okay, so let's go ahead and say I have 4 friends, and let's go ahead and say what is your first friend's name. So let's put David. Second friend name is Carlos, and Nathan, and Eli. So once it is done, we have a for loop down here, right here. So it's going to say, hey, let's print out all of the users that you input into the vector, which I just did. And you see here, David, Carlos, Nathan, Eli. And what you'll see is I also had the number input down go into here, so then we can know how much to output. All right, so that's the cool thing about vectors. I love vectors. I love everything about vectors. I like, for some reason, I just love to push back. I don't know why. Okay, I'm just weird. All right, so let's go ahead and go to our next thing here. All right, so as you can see here, to call for lists, you have to make sure you call for it, which is include the list library. And next thing is you're going to say lists and string or integer, whatever you're going to do. I like to do strings. And I love the word pushback here. Cool, pushback. But let's run this with a for loop. Can you run with a for loop? No, you cannot run with a for loop because it's a little bit different. It's not assigned to a number in the, like you typically see an array or a vector. So what we're going to do is instead of doing a for loop, we have a different type of for loop. Okay, so we're just going to output whatever's in this list here, and it's just going to output it. So as you're saying, hey, I'm going to call this output, but then it's going to be whatever's in the friend element. So you see friends here, you have David, Janet, Eli here. So it's going to output whatever I have in the friends element. So go ahead and hit run. You see it, David, Janet, Eli, Parker. Cool, that's awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and go to, I think it's queues. Okay, queues. Again, to call for queues, you're going to have to do create the library, and instead of using vector or list like you just saw earlier, we're going to do queues. And instead of pushback, is something a little bit different. You have something called push. So you're going to push these into this element. So it's an element. Again, it's not a vector or array. All right. So it just is just in here, right? So what we're going to do is let's go ahead and get rid of this real quick. We're going to do again. What we're going to do is a for loop, and it's not going to like it. Again, it's not going to like it because this is a element. It's not like a array or a vector where it's assigned to a certain allotted slot, right? So this is just saying, hey, all of these guys are sitting in this element, the Q element here. So if you try to print it out, it's not going to work. So you see, it's saying, hey, I don't know what you're talking about, so I'm not going to print it out. All right, so let's just go ahead and get rid of that guy and here. So what I did is kind of cool now. All right, so it's just saying, hey, look into my friend's queue, and if it's not empty, return something. But then while it's done returning, you're going to do a pop. That pop is going to remove it out of that element, so it will no longer be there. So let me annotate this out real quick, and then I'll show you. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and let's do it here. Sorry. Again, if most of you guys know me, I love to do bookmarks. Bookmarks all my code just to see how the code stops and starts, and so that's what I like to doing. It helps me learn a lot. So just go ahead and run. So you see Carlos, Nathan, Ryan. So it's going to print out an order: Carlos, Nathan, Ryan. Perfect. Okay. So now let's go ahead and try something different, and then I'll show you why. If you do a pop, it's going to remove it. Okay. So what I did now is just say, hey, after empty, let me make it look cleaner. Actually, no, I'm being dumb. I just do this. All right. So say after empty, if the queue is empty, if it is empty, just to say, hey, it is empty. If it's not empty, print it out again. So we'll hit run. Oops. It's saying, hey, Carlos, Nathan, Ryan. And then it's just saying, hey, this is just my bookmark after empty. The element is empty because it is empty. But let's just go ahead and grab this guy and paste it down here. It's just going to print it out again. Hit run. So it's just going to print out Carlos. All right. But that's just showing you like, hey, when you do a pop, if people are wondering, hey, what is pop? Pop is just basically removing that string from the element. So it's an element. It's not like a allocated slot with a number tied to that variable. Okay. All right. Cool. So let's go ahead and remove this guy, and let's go ahead. So we just got done going over queues. Now let's go over stacks. Stacks, same thing. You have to include that library in there. And instead of using vectors, lists, and queues, you're going to do stacks. Same thing. But again, it's a little bit different. You're going to use that push, right? As you see here. So before we do that, I just want to show you that. Let's go and get rid of this and let's annotate this out. All right, so go ahead and run. It's going to say, hey, why are you telling me to do a for loop? Like, these strings are not in an allocated slot, and I didn't assign it a number, so I can't. These elements here are just sitting in this stack element, like it's just sitting in like this huge group, right? So it's saying, hey, I don't know why you're telling me this. So let's go ahead and get rid of this guy. So we did the same thing like we did while friends is not empty, right? Not empty. And then we're going to continue to print out the friends sorry, my code's all ugly. I was typing this real quick, guys. So again, and then it's gonna do a pop. So it's say if you're not empty, print it out, and then uh, and then pop to remove it from the element, and then this is just me just going to the next, just going back down to the bottom. Okay, and I'm just gonna run this again. Hit run. See, and then after empty, there's nothing there. So it's not gonna run. I could do this. Hit run. See, there you go. All right. So if it wasn't empty, then it would continue to return. So that's why that's the difference between all of these from the vector to the list to the queue and to the stacks. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I'm looking to finish this semester with you guys. Thanks, everyone.